succeeded for some time when I was in control. And I used to do it every morning. I used to spend 6 hours in the school. Studying 30 years ago. Every child was great joy for me. Even today, those children call me up. Because in some ways, I am a voice in their heads. Now, how many of your children, they come back 20 years later and say, Madam, thank you. Your voice in my head has kept me straight in life. 99% of the time, they can say that about their primary school teachers. And that is why first standard is so important. Because that first standard voice of the madam, my first standard teacher called Rajkumari, I can never remove her in my mind. She positively created me. And there's no way her voice can go. When she retired and she was 65 years, she sent me a letter 20 years ago. She suddenly read about me in some newspaper and said, I want to come and live with you now. Postcard. I was so touched. I went in search of a house. From the day I knew her, she lived in a 10 by 10 room. She never married. She died of cancer. She wrote the letter to me 15 days later, she was dead. I told her, I went and met her and said, I'm living in a forest. No, I don't know a place of myself. She said, because you're living in a forest today, I want to come and live with you. Now, can they take greatest certificate a teacher can give a child? I was still a child for her. As long as, but I only regret that I could never take her to my place because she was actually very sick, which she wrote to me also. But I can never forget her. Because she's a voice in my head and all the radiant readers of the world, English. Or a math teacher, or English teacher, or a science teacher, or a subject but our that I can never forget. Now that is the power of a first standard teacher. And I am sure those of you who are teaching first standard, you will never appreciate it till the child comes 20 years later and tells you what I am telling you now. And they will tell you. That's the truth. That is why your job is so important. And that is why you are also critical to society. Because you create the future. And if you are complaining about those Mustafas or raping, 25 years ago this teacher did do a good job on it. And that is why my concern today. I wouldn't blame him. I would blame his first standard teacher. Keep going on.
I want to share. Today, probably because Dr. Balu is here, there is some truth that I want to speak out. I heard Balu sir's session about 5 years ago, the first time. That's when he spoke almost the same thing. He went on asking us if we were doing justice to children.
I've forgotten.
Probably you've forgotten, but I remember. You were my first standard teacher then. Because that was when I really started reflecting on the practices here. Soon after that, I didn't know how to bring about change. And change management is one of the biggest challenges in
anybody in the world.
In front of a principal at least.
Any human being in this world.
But then the change that I made was I determined and came back and we changed our curriculum to Chrysalis, whatever we are practicing today. There was so much of resistance from parents, teachers. I'm sure there are many faces, many smiles. There was so much of resistance. We have stopped giving notes and children write their own answers even for first time. They've started doing that. And how difficult it was for all of us to accept it initially. But then somewhere it started. That was because somewhere you kept on questioning throughout the session. It was a 3-hour session. You went on and on and on asking us if we were allowing children to be themselves. We were allowing children to express themselves. That was when I really didn't know what to do. But then luckily I came back and of course my team also supported. We started doing that. But we request you to probably keep waking us up again and again and again. Each time you come here, sir, there's so much of introspection that happens. Every word of what you speak. Maybe most of my friends will agree. We started working on this.
Wonderful to hear. And that's why I say change here means 40, 60 teachers, 2,000 children. And maybe you may not recognize it because you're so involved in the action, but when you go from outside, you are a school which is a role model school for society outside. You may not agree to it, but that's the truth. But you fall, everybody falls. So you have a bigger responsibility now. You stand erect and change things, everybody imitates you. So I think if you can do this in Mysore, and then others will copy. That's how it spreads. I think the power of one simple idea, that's what Vivekananda says. Can you teach your children the power of one single idea, he says. That's education. It's too powerful a statement. One single idea. And that power of that idea. Can we make our children believe I can make a difference? ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ನಿಲ್ಸಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿ ಬಂದು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ನೀವು ಫೇವ್ರೇಟ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ನೀವು ಯಾವ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಭಾಷಣಕ್ಕೂ ಬರದೇ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆ ನೀವು ಬರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ? ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಬರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಮಾತಾಡಲೇ